every time I think about it, like I feel like all I would do is just covers, and we would just get just copywritten.
I think you're
stuff.
giving us too much credit. I don't think we're good enough to try to do an impromptu cover that anyone cared enough about or could even hear a semblance of something else that would,
Yeah,
like,
like
no.
any jingle I can think of is just gonna immediately turn into something that's actually already done. So
But
100% you.
that wouldn't do anything though, would it? Like, what if you did it to Jingle Bells? Freudian slips, Freudian slips. With
Watch it.
Ollie and Danny.
As soon as you upload it, it's gonna get taken down.
No way!
We'll
Is that
see.
a joke?
That's what I'm worried about.
People wouldn't be able to say anything if you can't say anything to the tune of anything.
You could not sing happy birthday anywhere for the longest time
Are you
because
serious?
yeah, I'm 100% serious.
Can I give you a fun fact before we start the episode?
Mhm.
Throw it at the beginning, throw it at the end. I don't know, but I think people need to know. Did you know you can get a DUI for sitting in your car drunk? You want another one? Well, yeah. You want another one?
Mhm.
You can get a DUI if you are standing in your own driveway holding your car keys, not in your car, but a cop assumes you are about to drive your car. You can get a DUI. Yeah. I'm not kidding.
Wow.
Yeah, just learned this yesterday. I am not kidding.
Through experience? How do you even come across this information?
It's a long story, but I'd like to preface I do not have a tea. I also don't really drink. My version, I will order a pot of hot tea at a bar.
Uh-huh.
And I've had them, I think, try to shame people because they're like, well, if we give you tea, I've literally had places that are like, if we give you tea, we need to give you the whole pot. I'm like, bitch, give me the whole pot. You think I'm not going to walk around this bar with a whole pot of tea? You haven't met me. Give me the tea. So no, yeah, nothing like personal, but it is a long story. But yeah, isn't that nuts? Yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah, that is crazy.
Damn.
That was my fun fact of the day.
I love it. All right, beautiful.
Hey, Danny.
Hi, Ollie.
Sorry, I figured that I'd say hello.
I guess here we are.
Here we are. Oh, can I do the slips tricks? Everyone, all 13? That's right. 13 of you now. Welcome to Freudian Slips, where we discuss the thinks, the kinks, and the shrinks. I got it in the wrong order, but that's okay. Of the mental health field.
Yeah. Yeah,
Danny,
very excited.
what are we talking about today?
Today we are back to work.
We're back
No
to work,
more
baby.
summer fun media stuff.
Ugh, we're done with dating. Summer's almost over. Dating's over.
Yes,
We're back to it.
we are back to the job. And today we are going to be talking about 7 reasons why your therapist might be cutting you off. Do you, Ollie, do you tend to kind of cut people off a lot in therapy, or are you more kind of like, this is their space, whatever they need to say, they're going to say it, that's what they're here for? What is your relationship to interrupting people?
I will say I probably interrupt more in my day-to-day life than I do in therapy. I just get too excited.
Yeah.
But no, in therapy, I think I'm very intentional about when I do cut people off, it's for very specific reasons, which we will go into. And in general, I think I'm the kind of therapist that's much more, I let people do their kind of not train of thought necessarily, but what's it called when you just kind of are getting everything out, even
Stream
if
of consciousness.
stream of consciousness. Thank you. I really think it's important for people to have a space to do that. And I take excessive notes. So I'm jotting it all down anyway. So it's not like I'm going to forget or, it's I feel it all comes together eventually. So
Mm.
I actually don't try to interrupt too much in therapy. But how about you?
I think I probably interrupt more than I don't. There are definitely times where I really like that stream of consciousness. I'll even tell people when I'm doing an intake, don't feel like you're ranting. Odds are you're answering a question later down the line. So I'm just going to be typing, trying to keep up with you. In a similar vein, I also think it all kind of ties together at the end. So if I'm listening, I'm there, especially if it's an individual. I will let them kind of keep going because I'm really kind of looking for the point. I'm also just enjoying the ride. It's really, I like listening to people. But
Yeah.
as someone who works extensively with couples, I actually interrupt quite a bit. And I have had a few run-ins. It has rubbed people the wrong way from time to time. So
If you can give a little insight to that as an honorable mention at the end or something, I think you'll have to. Because I personally have not gotten any
oh no.
no, I've never gotten negative feedback about cutting people off. But I will say, I think you're right in terms of like a preface to all of this is it's obviously different situation to situation, and certain
Mhm,
types of
mhm.
therapy I think are much more structured depending on what you're working on, that really are more of like, no, 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 like I'm going to ask this, you need to answer this, or we're like doing an exercise or something that's very structured in the
Yeah, yeah.
moment. And that obviously I think is a little more guided, or you might cut someone off. And I think in general, couples, there is a lot more cutting people off than an individual therapy, I would
Mhm.
argue. Maybe it depends on the type of therapy or therapist, but I think with couples, it's a lot more of like, well, no, 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 like let's let them have their like, let's let each other finish, or it's like if things do seem to go awry or tensions are building, I think it's like, oh, no, no, no. So I do think it's different depending on what type of therapy you're doing.
It is 100%. If you're going a little bit more of a narrative approach or something that is more client led, yeah, I don't think that those therapists are cutting their clients off nearly as much. That's something that is more therapist led or specifically EFT. I had a supervisor that loved EFT, and he would tell us that people should not be talking more than 15 seconds before you kind of come in and guide. Yeah, because what he says, and this is kind of a common theme in EFT, is that you can't let people get stuck in the content.
Mhm.
People will come in and give you content and information that is in their mind, no fault to them, but in their mind, it's all important. It all
Mhm.
matters. But you have 50 minutes. We're doing an enactment. The entire thing is a process. We need to get down to the emotions. We need to get down to the real message, and we need to be able to send that to the partner. And so 15 seconds or more. If you're not getting the point, you need to jump in. And me being someone who's trained in EFT, using EFT a lot with my couples, this is kind of where I pull it from. I don't think I have to save the honorable mention to the end. I think I could just put it here at the beginning,
Yeah.
and it's definitely going to come up in more context as we go through this. But yeah, most recently I was working with someone and they came in not wanting to talk. They came
Mhm.
in saying, hey, just not really feeling it. I'm here. It was a couple. So partner A says, yeah, I'm here because they told me to come, and so yeah, I'm done. Me being like, great. In my mind, no problem. Everyone has their off days. Partner B obviously wants to come in. And so give me a chance to kind of hang out with them. You
Yeah.
take a break. Thank you for showing up. Let me do my magic. Let me do my thing. Partner B says one, two sentences, and immediately partner A is just cutting them off, is just hijacking the conversation. I end up in a conversation with them for a couple of seconds and I'm starting to cut them off. Everything that they're saying, I'm starting to redirect, I'm starting to jump in, I'm starting. And then they eventually said, hey, I really don't like what's happening. This is getting very, very frustrating. You are supposed to be my therapist. Your job is to understand me. And right now, I'm not feeling understood. And
Wait, I'm
that,
sorry. I'm sorry. I just need to your job is to understand me.
yeah,
You're not understanding me.
yeah. And so I had to do some real good psychoeducation and lay down some laws, remind them of some of why they're coming in, and I had to explain why I was cutting them off. It's going to be a few of these things on this list, and so that was kind of the inception of today's topic. And I do think that it's important. On the flip side, working with students who are trying to become therapists themselves, they often worry about cutting people off. And so
Yeah.
if you are a client or if you're someone who's in therapy, I hope that this what are we calling these things? Episodes. Totally blanked out. Holy
For
crap,
a
what
minute, I
happened?
thought you cutting people off. I was like, "Oh, we could call them maybe like interjections." And then you're
No,
so I didn't know you just meant episodes. Yeah,
episode.
all these are called episodes.
Wow. If you are someone who goes to therapy, hopefully this episode will give you a little understanding as to why your therapist might not be letting you go for as long as you might want to.
Yeah.
And if you're someone who is a mental health professional or someone trying to be a therapist, hopefully this episode will give you some understanding as to why it's actually beneficial to do it.
Mhm.
It's actually part of our job.
It's a tool,
Yes.
just like staying quiet.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So, number one, why is my therapist interrupting or cutting me off? Number one is to maintain focus. So, sometimes clients go off topic, they ruminate, they use storytelling as a defense, and gentle interruption helps redirect focus back to the core therapeutic issue.
now I'm nervous every single one you say. I'm gonna be like, "Oh, yeah, I think this is, like, me like, the majority of time while why I cut people off." But at least so far, based on the first one, I wanna say this one is maybe one of the most frequent. But again, I like people giving a stream of consciousness. So I think
Mhm.
if we're not working on a very specific thing in the moment, or if it's not like, "Oh, you came in, like, very worked up over something happening right now that we're trying to address, like, very like, what is whoa, 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 like, what is going on?" I think if we're not addressing something very specific, I am so okay with like, "Oh my gosh," and then or being like, "Ollie, I don't know why this is randomly coming to me, but like, then maybe that's why this other thing made me so mad." It's like,
Sure.
I'm
Yeah.
normally all about that. But if it's something where it's like in the moment, I'm trying to understand what's going on, or yeah, we're very actively talking about like how someone gets so anxious or like what happened in that one specific moment and they start going off. I think I very lovingly try to be like, whoa, 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 wait,
Mhm.
like, I'm trying to figure this out, or, like, we're trying to just let's stay right here. Just what happened today? You know, it's
Mhm.
like, I do think there are times where it's like, let me just get the context I need around this. And then if we need to bring in those other things or if that feels really relevant. Absolutely. Or some clients, I think specifically as you get to know them, I don't know if you get this, but have told me like, Ollie, I just please, I go off in a million directions, or I know I'll get lost in something else. So sometimes I will try and figure out if that's what's happening, and I will kindly let them know like, "Hey, I would love to know about this story when you were 7. I just wanna let you know, sometimes you say you get off track." And normally they'll kinda laugh a little and be like, "Oh, no, 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 like, this is relevant to that." And I'm like, "Great."
Sure.
Or they'll just be like, "Oh, this is definitely me getting off track. Let me go back to, like, what happened in the bathroom." And I'm like, "Great." And
Yeah.
so I think maybe it's just my approach or how I maybe interject. But yeah, I think this one happens a lot, and I have not really had any negative responses to it.
I wonder how much this happens to you, especially working with people with ADHD.
Yeah.
How many times you have to redirect focus.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
That is kind of my main niche. And so, yeah, they're going all over. And sometimes I love it because it also helps me see how their brain works in
Yeah.
real time.
I love that. That's a perfect point. Yeah. Letting people rant. It's a conversation. Not everything is about solving a problem. Not everything is about getting to the heart of things. Sometimes a session is about just building that relationship and being a place where you can be that soundboard.
Yeah.
And so I love kind of seeing inside a person's head and just listening to them speak. I learned so much more just following them on their many rants.
Yeah.
So, no, I think that's great. There are definitely times within the first 5 minutes, the way I usually set up my sessions is I want to check in. How are you doing? And if I'm seeing you as a couple, I want to know how are you as an individual and how's the relationship going? Within the first 5 minutes, I want to say, okay, great. What are we talking about today? And once we've established that topic, once we have an agreement, this is what we want to explore. That is where, I've found my focus. But sometimes clients don't really have anything to talk about, and we're not really working on anything actively. Everything's kind of fine. And so I think it's great. Totally talk my ear off. I can't wait to hear about your life. But yes, I definitely do have quite a few clients that get so excited at the sound of their own voice that they just go in a million different directions. Ruminating is a big one. Doomsday, right? People that just continue to go, and then I'm going to lose my house, and then my kids are going to hate me, and then I'm
Wait,
going to end up.
is that in this same category though? Or would that
Yeah,
be like a totally separate reason to cut someone off? Because to me, that feels different. That feels like, oh no, I see this going south. Versus like, no, 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 like, are we on track here? Or is this just like, why are we mentioning this? Like, this feels more lighthearted. Where I think what
sure.
you're describing, Danny, feels like when people are starting to spiral, or especially with like anxiety,
Hmm.
when you almost like live are watching their anxiety happen, and you're like,
Hmm.
"What?" And you almost like are demonstrating for them how to try and cut off the thought and be like, no, no, like that's not what's happening right now. Or like, no, like just because of this does not mean
Sure.
XYZ. Like we are going from step A to step F. Like that is, we do not need to do that right now. So that almost feels a little more, I don't know if invasive is the right word, but that can be, I think, a little quicker to be like, whoa, 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 I don't want this to happen right now
Hmm.
versus like a more lighthearted, they're just kind of going off.
Sure. I think a lot of these are going to kind of run together,
Yeah.
especially because there's never any one reason why someone would get cut off or why someone would go off topic.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure we will revisit some of these exercises. But I will say that yes, being a therapist that also works a lot with infidelity, a common
Mm.
conversation that comes in is one client will have some questions and want to understand, for example, why it happened. That is a
Okay.
common thing. Okay, so let's talk about why it happened. And they will ruminate. They will just completely spiral and start talking about what did happen or what they think is still happening.
Mm.
And so that is losing focus. The anxiety brain is kicking in. We are kind of moving away from the topic at hand. And so, yeah, there's going to be some lighthearted ones and some pretty, rough ones.
Mm.
Storytelling as a defense, I think, also kind of goes into one, but goes into a few other different reasons why we would cut you off. But I actually think that's super interesting when you start to pick out that people are talking to avoid talking.
See, and this is where I don't think everyone would agree with me, but maybe it's the kind of supervisors I had
Mhm.
or the kind of people I worked with, just like the general clientele. I'll let that happen a handful of times
Sure.
before I say anything because I want to figure out if it's like a certain type of story that they'll go to or if it's
Oh,
a
okay.
certain like what the pattern is of how they go off topic. Or then if I've built a little bit of data, then if I notice it happening again, I can be like, or I'll wait for them to be done. And I'll be like, I've noticed you do this. And
Yeah.
maybe that's also why I've gotten not a lot of negative feedback from cutting people off because sometimes I think if the first time they're doing that and you might recognize they're doing that and you try to cut them off, I think it can affect the rapport. I
Mhm.
think to them it might be like, no, this is really essential. And so I think for some of the reasons why I cut people off, I do wait until I have built enough data to support like interesting. I've noticed you do this. I have written down direct quotes or examples of each time this has happened. It's like I have enough and they know I'm listening and I've like kept track of it
Mhm.
that I don't think people get super defensive about it. And they're like, oh, geez, I do. Or they're like, gosh, like I like either they did notice and they're like, yeah, I do that. But then if I cut them off from that point forward, after we kind of have a conversation of like what might be happening, why do we do this, that kind of thing, then if I cut them off, I feel like they know it's coming from like a place of love and care and that we've already talked about that. Like it's not me just like interjecting and them
Yeah.
feeling like, I don't even know this girl. I'm paying however much for therapy, let me talk, you
Yeah.
know? And so I think it's maybe those specific examples I think are maybe taken a little differently because it's already been a conversation. But I think some people might not do that. They might not let people do it a handful of times to build the data. But I'm fascinated by sometimes when people do that, it's always the same story. Or sometimes it's like something from a similar time in their life,
Mhm.
and it'll be like, well, wait a minute, whenever you deflect, we always go to like these stories from when you were like 17 or 18. Why? Why do you always go there? And like, why is storytelling a deflection anyway? I don't know. I find it so interesting.
Very, very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
Number two. Number two, why is your therapist cutting you off is to manage time.
I'm bad at this one.
Are you really?
I'm so bad. Danny, I don't know if I've had ever a session that ended at the 50-minute mark. The times I have, I get off and I'm like, who is she? I'm like, we got, and I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I have clients that are like, Ollie, I really need to go at time today because I have another appointment. And I'm like, oh my
They're
God, you're
cutting
better
you
at
off?
this. I'm like, yeah, I'm like, damn, you guys are the ones ending it at the 50-minute mark, not me. Like, that's a me problem. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is bad. This is a bad sign. Yeah, so I suck. I suck at keeping the time. I'm not gonna lie.
I think I'm a little bit better. I don't know if I end them at the 50-minute mark. I think I'm usually pushing 55, but
Oh my
especially,
God, then you're not good either. Stop
yeah,
it.
yeah,
That's 5 minutes over.
yeah. This is
Never.
not a high horse, but I do try not to go over the hour.
Danny,
But
you're okay, you're just as bad as me. Get over
yes,
oh my God, you're
yes,
hilarious. I'm
uh,
good, as in I'm gonna go 10 minutes over, which is 1/5 of the session.
yeah.
Like, Danny, it ends at 50, buddy. We both need to get better.
We have to manage time. All that to say that we have to manage time. If you are coming in and you are investing your time, your energy, your emotions, and you're trying to get something out of it, sometimes we have to make sure that we are kind of moving you at a reasonable rate. And again, especially with couples, when you have to manage multiple people in the room, couples, children with parents, families, not everyone's going to have a chance to hold the talking stick. We kind of have to keep things going. Because
Yeah.
the last thing for me personally, the last thing that I would really want in a session is for people to leave without any kind of direction or idea of what they should be doing this week or next.
Mhm.
It's not that I always have to give them homework. It's not that I have to have the last word. It's not that I have to give them some beautiful saying that soothes their feelings. It's that great. You came in. What's the data? What are we going to do about it? What can we expect to see next time? Or what are we going to focus on so that we have some good data points for the next time that we hang out?
Mhm.
And so managing time is a big reason why we'd cut you off. But yes, Ollie and I suck at that.
Okay, sometimes I think if I'm, like, approaching, like, we're, like, 2 or 3 minutes away, the conversation's not, like, super serious, or we're not in some, like, really like, there aren't really big emotions. I think I do best when I have a little window that I can be like, "Okay, like, I just wanna be cognizant of time," and I can
Mhm.
kinda throw it out there. I have had certain supervisors straight up, like, set alarms that are like, the alarm goes off, like, 2 minutes before, like, at the 60-second mark, and it's like, I get how it helps. I just don't know if I have the balls to do it
Yeah, I don't
because
like
I see how like, sometimes people are just in really big emotions, or also, like, I'm a hypocrite. I like giving homework, and so if we're at the very end and I'm like, "Oh, but I need to tell you about this homework assignment," I
it.
go over because 'cause I'm telling you about homework. And so if I just don't know if I can do something that, like, would just interject and, like, shift the tone in the pseudo, makeshift little room we have in teletherapy. I
Mm.
don't know if I could do that, but I know that that helps a lot of people. I've heard, again, sometimes having a visible clock
Yeah,
helps people.
I have blocks.
I don't know if that would honestly really help any of my people.
People notice the clock, and I do have quite a few clients that look at it almost like a little kind of apprehensively. They're like, "I know I only have a couple minutes left, so let me just say this."
Yeah.
So I think it helps.
Maybe, yeah. Or I
Mhm.
don't know, on the computer, I think I notice people, like, look in the corner. Like, I think that we all have clocks on our computer. So, I don't know. I have thought about maybe putting one behind me, but also then, like, that's very far away. It'd have to be a really big clock, and then I feel like it's a really obvious symbol.
Yeah.
Oh, no! As you can see by the giant clock behind me.
It's an hourglass. That's what you should do.
My God. I just flip over an hourglass in the corner, and
Yeah.
it's just like I literally just the minute it
Time's
I'm
up.
like, "Quick, quick, quick, we're done." And we're done.
Yeah, I don't think I would ever set an alarm.
So at some point, I obviously have to interject to say we're at time, but I really suck at it. And however long I've been doing therapy, I don't think I have found one streamlined method. Pretty much start my sessions the same way every time, but I have not found a streamlined method to like kind of end them or try to wrap them up the same way every time.
That's interesting. Maybe we should get into that later.
Yeah.
How do you wrap up a session?
Mhm.
Best ways to wrap up a session. Episode idea. All right.
Yay.
In case you can't tell, we make this stuff up as we go. All right. Number three.
3.
Number three, your therapist is probably cutting you off to challenge some avoidance or defensiveness. So sometimes clients will over intellectualize, they'll joke, they'll monologue to avoid painful feelings.
Okay, I don't know if I notice it in terms of like a monologue, but when you like just said number 3, I imagine when people I get very picky about and I'll tell them I'm like, "Okay, I'm being really therapisty, but" and maybe this is I think I have little ways of interjecting, but where I kind of am like warning them. I'm not just gonna like interject and be like, "You said this." And they're like,
Mhm.
"What? No, I did." It's like I kind of almost preface or be like, "Okay, I'm gonna go real old school on this one." And so it's like I think they're kind of prepared for maybe something that's like, "Oh, that was a weird question," or like, "What? Like you wrote down exactly what I said?" And I'll be
Mhm.
like, "Why did you use that word?" Or I'm
Yeah.
like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. What was that about?" And I'll like point out something really specific that they
Mhm.
said or that they did. And I'm like, "No." And I feel like it needs to be addressed like right then and there. 'Cause I don't wanna lose it, and it's like I want them to notice, like, just now that they did it. Because a lot of the times it's like I think, it's almost like a Freudian slip. Or they say it and they don't realize it, or they do something that I don't think they realize is, like, a part of what we're working on, or
Yeah.
what, like, they're saying they hated that people did to them, whatever it is. So I don't know if I do it as much if I'm noticing, like, a monologue, but I think, like, when there's little itty bitty things that I'm like, "Whoa, what was that? Like, tell me about that."
Yeah. No, I actually get all three of these things.
Mm.
All three of these things. Number one, over intellectualizing. Yes, every single day. I tend to work with um like business people or people like in tech. And so
Mm,
very smart, very heady. And so oftentimes when we're coming here to kind of build emotional intelligence, strengthen your communication, help you understand what's behind the behavior, they can understand it logistically. It'll make sense and they'll kind of stay there and they feel as if they're able to explain why they do what they do, then that somehow addresses what they do. And
mhm.
it's like, no, you are being way too smart right now. You're giving me all these definitions. You're just talking in circles. What is going on with you?
Yeah.
Like let's get past that. You're not going to smart your way out of this.
Oh, I have another really good example of those ones. Like a
Okay.
very stereotypical example, but I think a really good one. And I think this can help. Like people might do this and you don't realize it. How are you feeling? Or like, how did that make you feel? Feel
Yeah.
something about tell me a feeling. People go, well, I felt like they should have da 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 da. And
Yeah.
it's like, that's not a feeling. Say, I feel. And
Yeah.
then right after the word feel, insert a feeling word. And
Yeah.
if you don't do that, then that's not a feeling.
Yeah.
And so it's stereotypically, I notice this more with men, but I like kind of love it. And I kind of love when they're trying. They're so trying. And then they're not. And I just have to be like, wait, let's try again. I'm like, can we get that that's not a feeling? And it's like, oh damn, okay, yeah, I get yeah. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
try again. And it's like, I feel like they suck. I'm like, all right, again. Again. We didn't get it again.
Yeah.
Third time's a charm. It's funny to me how hard it can be for people and in the most like loving way. Funny and like we're therapists. We do this all the time. I get it's not what people think about. But that's one where I interject a lot to be like, wait a minute. I asked you about a feeling and you somehow got an answer that did
Mhm.
not even include a feeling word.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not what you feel. That's what you think. Like those are your beliefs, not your feelings. Those are, yeah,
We're
those are
still in
some
our
of
head. We're
yeah.
still Eddie.
And, joking. Yeah. That one's another thing that I have to challenge that kind of has like some avoidance or defensive. A lot of people will tell me that they deflect with humor. And so I love a good joke, but when we are kind of talking about something, if you are coming in with a joke and I just notice that you're being a little bit too light, I am going to lovingly say, "Hey, well, what's going on with that? What's that for? What are we doing?" I think it's very different working with an individual than working with a couple.
Yes.
When couples joke, at least for me, the biggest way that jokes come out is in avoidance of intimacy. So they'll be in the bedroom or they'll be on the couch and we'll be trying to like walk them through an exercise and immediately they start, "Why are you looking at me that way? Like you look so weird," or "Oh my gosh, that face," or this or that. And they start going into this joking stuff. That's kind of what we're talking about here. It's like, hey, we know that we both want to be like intimate. We know that that's kind of what we're coming in for. And it is awkward. It's new. It's hard. And it is how people ease the tension. But when it comes to building intimacy, that's a fine line between something that kind of helps us get through something and becoming an obstacle.
Yeah. Ooh, that's true. Or I also noticed with couples, sometimes it can be like at one person's expense. Or like one
Yes.
person's clearly like does not find this funny. Like you guys are
Yeah.
in the therapy for like things related to this, and the other person will joke about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I don't think it's that funny. Or I don't think they think it's that funny. Or,
Mhm.
it's like that. Yeah. When it's a couple dynamic, I think it can be very different versus I think when someone clearly uses humor to cope about certain things that we have like no control over that are like huge like feelings
Mhm.
and like knows that they do that, you
Yeah.
know? But yeah, humor is one that I think I gotta really like see in the moment if I'm gonna say anything about it or almost just like validate like, hey, I get it, man. It's okay. Yeah, like
I
makes sense.
agree.
I would too.
Yeah, I agree. I think there is a difference, and I think you know it when you see it. There's a difference between like coping and deflecting. Like people will use jokes to take you out of the moment, whereas they'll use jokes as they're preparing to get into a moment. I think you know it when you see it. But yeah, we were talking about the defensive ones, the ones that are taking you out of the moment. Monologues, again, as a couples therapist, this is also something that I have to cut off a lot because it shows more defensiveness than avoiding. Because what I will always say is a conversation is between two people. Everyone has their role. There is a speaker and there is a listener. When you are speaking, you need something from your partner. I don't care how well rehearsed your monologue is. If the listener can only hear the first and last thing that you said, you've wasted your own time.
Hmm.
And so sometimes people just get locked in a conversation with themselves. They just keep going and going. And then their listener, their partner is just there like, that was a lot of information. What the hell can I do about that? And now the speaker is upset. They're like, see, you never listen. You're never there for me. It's like, no, 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 no. You're giving way too big of chunks. Monologues, especially in couples therapy, are always something that I am definitely coming in to kind of check in on because a conversation can only go as fast as a listener can process.
Mhm.
So that's one for me.
Ooh.
Number 4?
Yep, number 4.
Number 4, your therapist is probably cutting you off to regulate intensity. So if a client is emotionally overwhelmed, dissociating, escalating, yelling, therapists may interrupt to help ground or regulate.
Ooh, that's a good one. I get some couples, or I've had some couples where people would start getting real angry or like it starts escalating, and I need to be like, no, but wait a minute, let's regroup here, guys. Um,
With me, couples get angry. And this is not to say that you can't be angry in session, that you can't be sad or overwhelmed. That's not what this is about. For me, it's always about, are you able to express your emotions or are your emotions dictating the conversation?
are they expressing you?
Yeah. Yeah. And there is times where we need to stop, take a deep breath and calm down. Not because I'm not going to listen to you if you're yelling. That's really not what it's about. It is one, mostly about kind of respecting the other person, that they are there in a conversation with you. Like they're
Yeah.
not your villain, they're not your perpetrator. But two, it's about regulating yourself. I don't think enough people take accountability for their own ability to attend to a conversation.
Hmm.
And I don't know if that makes much sense. I might have to go
What
about
do you
that one
mean
more
by
time.
that?
What I mean is, whenever we start conversations as a couples therapist, me personally, one of the biggest things that we do is we invite our partners to a conversation. Do you have a couple minutes? This is what I want to talk about. This is what I need from you. We good? We good. That gives us a chance to understand what it is that we're actually going to be talking about so that we can focus in. But that also gives us a second to check in with ourselves. Hey, is this a conversation I can actually participate in?
Mm.
Or am I too ramped up right now? Do I not have the time? Am I, too activated by it that I wouldn't be productive? You have a responsibility to check in with yourself to see that you can actually have this conversation. So many people will just say, yep, totally fine, let's do it. And
Mhm.
they are not. They are not actually able to participate in the conversation and they are not paying attention to their own emotional bandwidth.
Mhm.
So when they start talking, immediately they get activated. They start yelling, they start cutting in, they start counter criticizing, they start cross complaining. And now we're just in a tit for tat, we're in an argument. Not because the conversation isn't good, not because the topic is insurmountable, but because I am not taking responsibility for my own emotional bandwidth. I've
Mhm.
jumped myself into a conversation I should have never started to begin with.
That's good. It also reminds me of people that will start a conversation or in couples when you're like discussing something that happened or and even just as the therapist trying to figure out like, okay, like what was the point of bringing that up? Or like, yeah, like so what was that supposed to lead to? Or like what were you trying to accomplish?
Mhm.
So many people will be like, um, I guess I don't really know. And it's like I think it's good to check in with ourselves. Yeah, before it's like not only how maybe do I want to deliver this? Do I have the emotional bandwidth right now? Do we have the time right now? But also like, okay, what's the goal of this? You know? I think just like with anything we do.
Mm.
It's like, I don't know. In my ideal world, I'd drink coffee all day long, but it's like that's not going to lead to a that's not going to accomplish any goal of mine I'm trying to meet. You know, and so it's like I think sometimes we go based on impulse. And it's like I totally get wanting to like you're mad about something or wanting to have a conversation. But yeah, I think taking a step back to figure out how can I best do that? And what is the point of this? What is the point of me sharing this? Why do I want to get it off my chest? Even if it's just like, well, I want them to know. And like, it's like, I don't want to feel like this on a day to day basis or whatever. Like, that's the valid. But it is funny to me how many people, when we try and really tweeze that apart, the answer is like, huh, I don't actually really know where I was going with it or like why I was ready to die on that hill. And so I always love that. Like, we're all just people, we're just trying.
Number 5.
Number 5.
Number 5. Why is my therapist cutting me off to help me reflect and clarify what I'm actually saying? So, interruptions sometimes happen to clarify what a client means or to reflect on something important that has just happened. I think this is actually this is the example that you just walked us through. So, I think that was a really good one. For me, I think the way I kind of fit into this one is oftentimes clients will say something that really kind of pops out to me, and I'll be
Mhm.
like, whoa, hold on, hold on, hold on. You just said something right there. Like, what do you mean by that? Can you tell me more about this thing? Because that was a throwaway line for you. And I feel like I'm missing something huge.
That's like the Freudian slip thing I think I was talking about earlier
Yeah.
too, where someone just does something like to them, it's like an aside, or it's like, "Oh, I didn't mean that." And I'm like, "What do you mean you didn't mean that?" I'm like, "That was a weird comment to make and not mean." Or I'm like, "That was an interesting aside then." Just to like
Yeah.
throw out there that you'd forget that you said. So yeah, I think that's a lot of, or in the middle of a story, I definitely will. I'm like frivolously taking notes and I'll just be like, "Oh my gosh, so sorry, question." I will literally like raise my hand and I'm like, "So that person that was the cousin." Yes, okay,
Yeah.
that was the cousin. Keep going. It's like I need context. Like
Yeah.
I need to know what I'm getting into. I want names. Do I want photos? Absolutely. Am I going to ask you for them? No. But when you're like, I am the meme. That's like when you finally show your therapist like a photo of that fuck boy that we've been talking about forever. I'm like, thank you. Yes. And so it helps me, but it also truly it helps me organize all the names and stuff. And I know we've talked about this. I'm very happy with the fact. I think I do have a good memory. I'll give myself that. I think I have a very good memory. But that also helps me when I have all the context of things to then if we ever talk about this again or we could even not see each other for months and you come back and I'm just like, "Oh my god, and that was Steven." And they're like, "What? Like how did you remember that? I mentioned his name once." And I'm like, "Girl, I got you. I know." So I love context. I will interrupt for context every day of the week. I do it shamelessly in the middle of someone like is so passionate and I literally will be like, "Whoa, stop. Who was that?" Or I'm like, "Wait, was this the same day?" I'm like, "No, no, no, no. Explain
Yeah.
that again." And I do that shamelessly because I'm like, "I need to know the context of what we're about to dissect here."
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm
All
with
right.
you on that one.
Good. Good, good, good. Yeah, so I love this one I love. This one I think I do shamelessly and easily.
Number six.
Number 6.
Number six. You're probably getting cut short because we need to set or maintain boundaries. This is the big one for me.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait, yeah, you go.
Yeah. So if a client is being disrespectful, monopolizing the conversation, or speaking in a way that disrupts the therapeutic process, I will intervene. This goes back to that scenario that kind of incepted this entire episode.
Mhm.
And so remember, partner A and partner B come in as a couple. Partner A says, I ain't here for this. I don't want to talk about anything today. Whatever they want, they're the ones who wanted to show up. You talk to them. So as I'm talking to them, they are now interjecting, criticizing, complaining, and just going at them. No, my job is not to listen to you and to just hear you, have you say whatever you say. A comment that I get a lot in therapy when I do start to like interrupt people when it comes to stuff like this, they will say, Danny, I thought that this was supposed to be a safe place. And I will say, my guy, this is a safe place. Therapy needs to be a safe place for people, not your emotions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not just you going off the rails, or, like,
Yeah.
just being safe doesn't mean you get to do whatever you want and everyone needs to
Exactly.
just fucking get out of your way.
Yes, this is a safe place for you and your partner. That means that this is not going to be the safest place for your unfiltered, uncut emotions. No, these are the rules. And with me, I have a lot of structure, especially when it comes to couples. There's a listener, there's a speaker. I use a lot of imago in my couples work. And so if somebody is hijacking a conversation, if somebody is just cutting in and always trying to shape the narrative, if someone is always offended by what the person says, that sounds like a good opportunity to process. Would you like to talk? No, no, it's whatever they say. Then respectfully stop cutting in. So, in order to protect everyone in the room and everyone's opinion, yeah, there are boundaries. This is a safe place. I want every client to feel as if they can express themselves, but like you're here to learn how to express yourself. You're here to learn how to communicate effectively. Just because you have an opinion and just because you have convictions about that opinion does not mean that you're doing it in the healthiest way.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
setting and maintaining boundaries, needing to be firm, that is probably number one for me why I cut my
But, like, number 1 is in the one you do most often?
yeah.
Whoa, okay. See, I think in couples and again, I think there's bleed over to other examples we've used that I think are also boundary related because it's like the rules of couples therapy that we've all established and agreed to.
Yeah.
So I agree with that. I think in couples, I've had to do that a little bit, maybe more at the beginning of couples where now a lot of the couples I see, I've been seeing for a long time and it's a lot more like maintenance work that maybe we meet like once a month to go like over stuff or just see how things have been and work. But like we've been doing it long enough where I don't really have to do that with them anymore. If I ever did, where it's funny is like for me, the boundary ones that I have had are probably one-time conversations because it's me being like, "Cool, that was 100% inappropriate, and I don't wanna see your genitals, and I'll be blocking you on everything. Goodbye." Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just yeah. The times I've had to have any conversations around, like, real, like, boundaries of, like, what therapy is just, like, it's so far over a boundary that it's like, "Alright, cool, goodbye." Like,
Mm.
I ew, no, leave me alone.
No, boundary crossing is a common thing for me, specializing in couples, working with them every day, and then also working with a lot of infidelity. People come in with a lot of contempt. They have a lot of resentment. And there's a difference between, hey, this has hurt me. I need to share. I would like to share my like just internal experience. Can you listen for a little bit? And then there is just, I want to crucify you. I want you to hurt as much as I am. And that's something that I have to manage a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Gosh, no,
There
that would
there's
be
been
tough.
quite a few times where I've had to just turn a couple away because it's like you're not here to heal, you're here to hurt your partner.
The one time the one time I had to break up with a couple, essentially, I was almost so happy. The session I went in that I was like, "I know we need to have this conversation."
Mhm,
It was only one partner because the one who was crossing those boundaries and being just awful, in my opinion, did not show up, straight up refused. And so the other one basically showed up to be like, "Hey, yeah, like, we're not gonna be able to do this anymore, and, like, I don't they're receptive to this." And I was like, "Honestly, I was going to tell you the same thing today. So I'm kind of glad it's just the 2 of us." And,
mhm,
like, I will refer you to the most, like, male intense couples therapist that I can find. Because a part of it was this, like, complete lack of respect for literally was told to me for women and for especially our age range that, like, you and I are in. It was like, this was not going to work. And so that was one of the times I was very, like, shaken by seeing how someone, like, talked to their partner, and I would straight up have to be like, "Whoa, like, no, 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 we are not that is not happening here.
mhm.
It's let's try and regroup. If that happens one more time, we are absolutely stopping this session."
Yeah.
And it just broke my heart to see someone talk to their partner like that and their partner kinda just
Yeah.
take it.
Yeah, I hate to see it. It really
Yeah.
does break my heart. And that's not to say that, like, I'm not gonna work with you guys, good luck. It is always, um the thing I will always say to follow that is that the individuals are lacking skills to participate in couples therapy effectively. And so, what I strongly recommend is you guys do your own therapy first and then come back. Or you guys can do it concurrently.
Mhm.
Have an individual therapist while you're seeing me so that you can focus on yourself. You have an entire hour just dedicated to you so that you can come in and participate in a couples format because couples therapy is very, very different. I'm not taking sides, but I am fighting for a relationship. I
Yeah.
would like to think that at the end of the day, it's going to be your relationship, but there is a healthy relationship, and that is my job. That is the thing I'm trying to guide you towards. I'm not here to validate your unhealthy stuff.
As a random aside, but just because we're talking about couples really quick, whenever I start individual sessions, I don't someone I don't wanna jinx it. So I feel like I've heard a lot. Someone can talk to me about pretty much anything, and it never feels that heavy to me. Or it just feels like, "Yeah, this is what I signed up for, I'm prepared for this." Couples, for some reason, even though with an individual, sometimes some people are, seem just very emotionally, like, stable, or we have, like, sessions where there's no real, like, crying or big emotions for months and months and months, and then you hop in one day and you're like, "Oh my gosh, what? Like, what is going on?" But I just view that as a part of, like, good. Like I wanna see you on these good days, I wanna see you on bad days. Like, I want you to just show up how you are. But there is something about couples, and I don't know if you feel this way because 'cause we've talked about it. you've told me you view couples as, like, not as
It's so much easier.
okay, yeah, yeah, I was like, "No, I don't wanna say easy," but, like, for you, they're not as energy draining. For
Yeah.
me, I love couples work, but I mean, I almost like, what's that song that's like, bum, bum, ba da 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 da, bum, 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 you know, the basketball?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Was it in, Space Jam?
I think so.
Okay, I feel like I could play that song before every couple session, and I'd just kinda, like, bounce around in my office and be like, "Woo, okay, fucking pumped." Like, I need to be, like, in game mode. Like,
Sure.
I love it, but I am always like, "Alright, guys, like, what's going on?" How like, I'm ready. I'm ready for anything. I'm like, "What's happening? What mood am I walking into? How have things been?" Like, I'm
Mm.
always on edge. Whereas with individuals, I'm just like, "Ooh, okay, having a sip of tea. Oh, it's time. Alright. Hey, guys, sorry, I'm just finishing up this ice cube. How are you doing?" You know,
Yeah.
it's like I'm a totally different headspace with individuals versus couples, and I don't know why. Even if it's, like, couples that are really mellow, I do not see in it what universe you view them as easier.
I'm the opposite.
You're
I'm the
so
one finishing up my lunch and a couple is coming in. And if I'm seeing an individual, I'm the one looking through my notes, figuring out, okay, what the hell are we going to talk about? What's going on? This and that. Because the couples will usually lead the conversation. They're the ones doing all the work. I'm the one helping maintaining structure, boundaries, and respect. Yeah, I'm the opposite.
How do you feel
Couples,
about families?
no, thank you.
Okay, good. I wouldn't touch families with a 10-foot pole. I think a part of that, though, is I'm not in a room with them. I think
Sure.
sometimes even couples, I'm like, I just think this couple would do better if they were in person, or I think in person could be really good for them. Families, I'm like, I can't even imagine trying to see 3 or 4 people in a screen, especially if some of them are kids. Way too many things to manage. I'm like, "No, the only way I think I would love doing this is if I took one of those really rogue approaches and I was, like, in a room and I'm like, I'm just gonna start mimicking people." Or I just, like, took on different family roles and, like, really like, if I'd make it a whole theatrical thing. I'd be, like, this specialist that saw, like, 2 families a day, that's it, and it was just like, you are just it's your whole thing, and you're really yeah, no, so I don't like families.
No, no, I'm out.
Okay, cool.
Refer out every single time. The one
Okay.
time that no, I've had it happen a couple of times. The couple of times people have sought me for family work, it's just ended up turning into couples. Yeah,
Which makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. Even with couples, I like how, you'll sometimes see one person, sometimes see the other person, then we see together. But with families, it can be like, it's just, yeah, yeah, families are extra super draining. Got the hours I needed or some experience getting, like getting our hours. And it was I was like, we won't be doing this again.
I would love to do a family with co-therapy. Like, if I was
Oh, yeah.
handling one, like, the children and someone else was handling the couple, then I'd totally I have experience doing that co-therapy. That was fun, but
Yeah, that's
handling the
cool.
entire family myself? No, I'm good.
No, no, thank you. Okay, so I'm glad to know you're normal in that way, but even yeah. That is funny, we are so opposite where yeah, no. I have all of their notes, I don't want people to think out there that I don't have notes that I'm looking at, but it's like, again, I think because of my memory, I'll just be like, "Alright, I'm gonna check in and see if they did that homework assignment," or I'll just randomly be like, "Wait a minute, we talked about that thing like a month ago, did that ever happen?" Or I'm like, "Whatever happened with that?" And they're like, "Oh,
Ooh,
Ollie, thank you for remembering," and then they'll, like, go into it. So it's
yeah.
like, no, I view individual as more of a conversation that I like to believe I can really seamlessly, I think, incorporate and fold in techniques and theories and stuff. Like, I'm on a mission, I know what I'm doing, but, like, individual feels so much more naturally flowing to me, where couples, I'm very like, "Mhm," or I'm like, "No, no, no, we're going south, like, turn the ship." And so, yeah.
Opposite. Exact opposite.
Wow, how
Yeah.
funny.
Last
Are we
one.
at 7?
We are at 7.
Last one.
Last one. So your therapist might be interrupting you to ensure safety. If a
Oh,
client discloses something related to self-harm, abuse, risk, the therapist needs to take a minute and assess and address any immediate concerns. This is thankfully not something that I come across often, but this usually comes up when people are either being dramatic, they're going off on a tangent, or they make jokes about like SI, self harm, death, anything like that. Those are the times. So, odd, like morbidly enough, this one's a little bit lighthearted for me in my
mhm.
experience, but whenever it does come up, I usually do have to be like, ha ha ha, all right, I'm right here with you. I love dark humor, but we good? Like,
Mhm.
real talk, everything all right?
Yeah.
So ensuring safety is yeah,
It's one where I think some people, or maybe when you're learning to be a therapist, it can be uncomfortable because I think the assumption is if you ask people like, "Hey, you got a plan to kill yourself?" I think it makes people uncomfortable, or they're like, "Oh no, what if that plants the seed?" And it's like, "No, don't worry, you don't have to plant that seed. If it's there, it's there."
yeah,
I think I worked in schools long enough where I had to do so many of things like that. Sadly, it was just like all the time that I've gotten so used to I don't seek out, especially again doing teletherapy. I don't seek out or try to advertise for seeing people that are in really, really bad places like that. And if I've worked with someone for years and we're getting there, I think I know them well enough and we can have those conversations and it doesn't feel as maybe abrupt as like a first or second session when you need to do it. But I do think I've done it enough that it really, yeah, it really takes off any weird feelings that you might have of being like, oh, okay, wait a minute. That was big. Let's talk about this. You got a plan? You got a time? You got
yeah,
means? What's going on? It's like, I think, yeah, that can throw people off when you're first learning, or it can make people really uncomfortable. But I think it's important to have practice with it. But I'm very glad I don't like specialize in things where I'm doing that on a regular basis anymore because it was
same.
really disheartening needing to do it with like
Yeah, same, same. So we are not uninterested. We're not listening. There are very valid reasons why we
we
might
just don't like the sound of your voice.
no.
I'm kidding. I'm
a
totally
good
kidding.
a good therapist will do this with sensitivity and often explain why. They'll take
Yeah.
some time to repair the rupture and make sure that clients are on the same page with it. We also do welcome the feedback as much as that one experience that I talked about. That was definitely one where I had to maintain a boundary. I do really appreciate the feedback. I know my style is my style and some people are looking for something different. So if you feel as if your therapist is being a little bit disruptive, it's absolutely okay to say, "Hey, I notice that I'm continuing to get interrupted. Can we talk about that?" That kind of transparency actually can deepen the relationship. And so we really appreciate your feedback.
Well, yeah, and make it a conversation. Like, yeah, if you do feel like your therapist is cutting you off and you're like, "Hey, I've noticed that you like really seem to not want me to do this thing," or like, "I really want to tell you about this and you keep cutting me off and not letting me do it." It's like I love having conversations in the moment, in session, and that's I mean, I even let people know the minute I start with them. I'm like, "Hey, I look down and to the right all the time because I am constantly taking notes, and that's how my brain remembers things." And so it's like I always try and let people know ahead of time so they're not just wondering like, "Why on earth is this girl just like looking down all the time?" Or like, "Why is she?" And I think by interjecting right, in these situations or like when you have a reason for it,
Mhm.
it helps people also understand like, "Oh, okay, cool." Like they're interjecting, but it's purposeful. But yeah, that being said, different therapists have different styles like Danny mentioned, and hopefully this gives you a little bit more context as to why a therapist might be interjecting. And yeah, I mean also at the end of the day, if you decide that it's not the right fit for you or you want to see if a different therapist would kind of approach you differently, that's also why I think there's so many of us out there. I'm like, go, yeah, maybe there's a better fit for you.
Cool. This was fun.
Yeah, I liked this one. This was a great I'm glad that you brought up that story the other week that made us decide to be like, "Oh, we should have a whole thing about why people do interject or why therapists interject." So, I love this.
Awesome. I guess I'll see you next week then.
Yep, see you next week, Danny. Back to work. Woo!